All right. I guess I was having a voice problem. I will have to revise it again, but that's no problem. In this lecture, we're going to take a look at loops in C++. So first of all, we need to understand what is a loop and why do we use loop, right? So loops are used to repeat a certain task or block of code over and over again. Means if you want to perform a specific task several times, that depends on you, right? If you want to perform something, if you want to perform a block of code, if you have a task that you want to perform many times, so we use loop in programming. So here it is, the number of times a loop repeats depends on the requirement. Means if you have to repeat a loop, or if you want the loop to run 10 times, it's up to you. If you want the given loop to run for about 1,000 times, it will work. It will definitely be executed, right? So it's all up to the programmer. It's all about the requirement of the programmer or the requirement of the program. Yeah, the number of times a loop repeats depends on the requirement. I'm sure this is clear. If you guys have any question, go to the chat option and ask your questions. Okay, so each cycle is termed as one iteration, right? Whenever a loop complete its cycle, it's one cycle, that cycle is termed as iteration. This is very common term in programming word. So you guys must understand what is meant by iteration right up here. Each cycle is termed as one iteration. So I'm sure this is clear. We use loop to perform a several task, a specific task several times, and that depends on you how many times you want that task or you want that specific block of code to be executed. So it's all up to you. I'm sure this is clear. So in C++, we have three types of loops, but in this lecture, we're just going to discuss for loop. What is for loop and what is the syntax for the for loop? And basically we have three types of loops, but we're just going to go with the for loop. This is very basic, and if you guys can understand for loop, if you guys can actually know the syntax and how actually the for loop works, then definitely you can also easily understand the remaining ones. So let's get started. What is for loop? In for loop, a programmer knows the exact number of iterations. Mean the programmer knows in the first place that how many times the loop has to be executed, how many iterations will take place in the defined loop. So a programmer already knows the exact number of iterations in for loop, right? I'm talking about for loop. So you see that this is the syntax for the for loop. You should know that absence of condition will result in infinite loop. What is infinite loop? Means that task, that block of code will run infinite times. The loop will never end until you just close the program, you terminate the program by your own. So the loop will continue to run over and over again. It will never ever stop until you close the program or you terminate the program. If you miss the condition, so you must give the condition in order to make the loop work in several iterations, right? In order to limit the loop. So that's why we put a condition. Well, you guys might not know what is meant by condition here, but just look at this syntax. First of all, we have to simply write for, and then in parentheses, there we have three portions. The first portions is called initialization. So if you are not getting it, we're just going to work with it practically. So what is initialization? Actually, you have to set a counter here. Suppose integer I or integer x equals to 0 or 1. So there we have to set a counter. Yeah, the data type has to be int here. So we're just going to work with it practically, then you guys can easily understand that. Then we have another portion, then you will have to put semicolon, then you will have to give the condition. Once you apply the condition, then you will have to, in the third portion, you will have to do increment or decrement. It's up to you, up to the programmer requirement. Then you'll have to put curly braces as usual, and then you can write down a single statement or number of statements. Again, it depends on the requirement. So this is it. I'm sure this is literally clear. So if you guys are not getting anything, or if you guys are a bit confused, I'm just letting this screen in front of you guys. So if you're not getting any term here, go to the chat option and ask your questions. Thank you. So this is the for loop, and we're just going to work with it. If I got the time, maybe we'll define the other loops as well. But for now, we have to work with for loop. So I'm just going to open up my compiler, right? We have only 3 participants in this lecture, which is pretty bad and disappointed. Kind of disappointed, but anyway, I'll be uploading this lecture on YouTube, so our other remaining students can access it anytime they want to. So now I'm just going to open up this compiler, and we have to work with for loop practically. So now it is just opening up, and I've got my window, and just going to erase the previous program. And all right, so we're here, and what is the problem here? I need to write a program. I have to write a program to print you can say hello world 5 times. So this is the program. Yeah, I'm using dev C++ to run the code, and I'm coding with dev C++ in dev C++. So now I have to write a program through which I will be displaying hello world 5 times in individual line. So now one might tell me, why don't you just use cout? You can try using cout here. Just use cout function for 5 times and you'll get the result. I know that's clear, but what if I tell you to write this program hello world in individual line for about 100 times? That would be difficult. That would be definitely time consuming, right? So that's how loops can save your time. And what if I tell you that you have to write hello world thousands of times, 2,000 times, 3,000 times? So you can definitely you're never gonna use cout for each time you want to print hello world. And what if I use loop? I can do that. I can print it thousands of times just in few seconds. I will have to write few lines code, and it will definitely print what I want to print. I will get the same result. I will get hello world thousands of times if I want to. But that was just an example that how loops can actually save your time. So now in this one, I have to write a program to show hello world 5 times. So how do we get started? First of all, I have to simply write for, and then here's the initialization part. So int I, you can use any variable. For example, int x, right, equals to 1. So this is the counter. Now I have already set my counter, and now I have to apply the condition. So how the condition could be, I want hello world to be printed 5 times. So if x is less than 5, less than or equal to 5, what you have to do, you have to print, you have to increment x variable, post increment. And I'm sure this is understandable. I've initialized my value x variable with 1. Then I've set the condition, which is if x is less than or equal to 5. If x is less than 5, this loop will continue to run, and x value will be incremented by 1. So now I have to make the loop body. Don't worry, guys. I'm just going to understand it. I'm just going to teach it step by step that how actually the for loop works. So what is the mechanism of for loop? So now I will simply have to write hello world as in simple way, and I'm done, guys. Um, let's just compile this program by pressing F9 and see how it's actually going to work. So now it's compiling. It's going to take a moment. So you guys can definitely see. Well, I forgot new line, so that's why it appeared just in a single line. So yeah. Yeah, so I have to use backslash in here. You can just use backslash in, yeah, in order to just break the line and get hello world in individual lines. So that's why I have to perform it. Now, as you guys can see the actual result, what I've got, I've printed hello world 5 times just by using for loop, right? Can you guys see that? So now let's explain its mechanism. You see that first of all, in for loop, the value is initialized. First of all, this part is being executed. Int x equals to 1. That's done. We got the value of x as 1 and it's already set up. Now, after this part, the condition has to be checked. If the condition is true, the body of for loop will be executed. Keep it in mind. If this condition is true, the body of for loop will be executed. If this condition turns to be false, this body will not be executed and for loop will be completely skipped. And if you have written any other lines of code below this for loop, then they will be executed. Otherwise, the program will be terminated. So this condition has to be checked. If it is true, the body of for loop will be executed. So in the first iteration, you see that condition is true. X value is literally less than 5 because the X value in the first iteration we have 1. So which means the condition is true and the control flow will come down here and this part will be executed. And in the for loop, I've just given a single statement, which is cout, hello world, and backslash line. So this right up here will be printed. This will be displayed to the user. And then you see that what has to be done again in the second iteration. Then when all these code of lines which you have written in the inside the for loop body, that will be executed. And after that, the control flow will go to this part, increment or decrement part. So in increment part, we have x plus plus means I want to add 1 with the x variable. So initially we had x value equal to 1. So it will make the x value equal to 2, right? So in the second iteration, we'll be having x value equals to 2. And then when iteration is being done, then this part condition will be checked again condition will be checked again. So in the second iteration, we still have the condition to be true. So this part will be executed. So this will have to run. Now you can see that this is kind of a cycle. That's why it's called a loop. Now it's literally a loop. If you can see it, if you can see its mechanism, it literally seems to be a loop. So when this loop will stop working, when this loop will be terminated, when the condition turns to be false. So imagine in the fifth iteration, we'll be having x value equal to 5. So the condition is true again because I've used less than or equal to operator, means x is equal to 5, which is true. So this part will be executed, and in the sixth iteration, increment will be done, means x value will get equal to 6, which means that, and then condition will be checked in the sixth iteration. I'm talking about sixth iteration. So the condition will be checked, and you see that in the sixth iteration, the condition will have to be false because the x value will be having 6. And the condition I've said says that if x is less than or equal to 5, you will have to run the loop, otherwise terminate the loop. So in the sixth condition, in the sixth iteration, the condition turns to be false, right? Because the x value will be 6, and in the condition I've set it, x is less than or equal to 5. This means condition will be false in the sixth iteration. Then, as I said earlier, the for loop will be terminated. That's why we have hello world printed 5 times, not 6 times or less or more. Because we have set the condition to print hello world according to our requirement, which is 5 times. So you guys can literally see that we have hello world 5 times being printed on the screen. So if the condition turns to be false in the sixth iteration, obviously the for loop will be terminated, and that's it. The program terminates here. This is called for loop. If you guys have any question, go to the chat option. I'm telling you guys again, for loop is quite important. If you guys can understand the mechanism of for loop, why do we use for loop, how to work with loops, you can literally become a great programmer. Because usually in programming, in advanced programming, or even just being a beginner, we work with loops. We literally use loops several times, like in every program, right? You will have to use loops whenever you want to repeat a certain task several times. So this was just an easy example of how for loop works. I'm sure this is clear. Now we are having 2 more loops. We will also be discussing that, but kind of roughly, like you guys have got the idea of for loop, then now you can easily understand the remaining loops. So if you have still any question, go to the chat option and ask your questions. Otherwise, we're going towards while loop. So what is while loop? The second one we have is while loop. So in a while loop, a programmer doesn't know the number of iterations the loop is going to perform. I didn't clear this point. I told you guys, if this condition is absent, so the loop will run infinite times, because we have not set the condition. We have not made the loop to work to be executed several times. If we have not defined the condition in for loop, hello world will be printed infinite times. The program will never end until you just terminate the program. You just program, you will have to forcefully close the program. So that's one of the point in the for loop. You guys have to keep it in mind. Now we have a second loop, which is called while loop, and you guys can see this theory. In while loop, a programmer doesn't usually know the exact number of iterations the loop is going to perform. So it's just opposite to the while loop, but still you can kind of have a slight idea. Like in this tutorial, we will use while loop, and we will also know the exact number of iterations. But once you work with while loop and you use it by your own in upcoming programs, then you will see that you will literally not know that how many times the while loop has to be executed. But in this case, we will know the number of iterations the while loop has to perform. So you see that, remember this point, absence of condition will throw an error. Now this is the syntax for while loop. You guys see that? First of all, you have to write simply while, then in the parentheses, just you have to set the condition, and again you will have to make the body for it by using curly braces, and then you can easily define your statements. If that's a single one, fine. If you have more than one, that's also fine, it will work. So now you have to keep this thing in mind, this point. Absence of condition will throw an error. If I don't write this condition, I will get an error. We'll work with it practically, right? So we'll have to clarify this point practically. But now let's just work with while loop. I have to make this program. I have to make this similar program by using while loop. I want to print hello world 5 times by using while loop. So let me erase the for loop and just simply type while and then the condition. So you see that now we don't have the value. We cannot initialize value of, we cannot perform initialization inside these parentheses. So if you want to make the while loop to be limited, just initialize the value here, or yeah, and I equals to suppose 1. So if I is less than or equal to 5, the while condition will run, and then I simply type here hello world. What just happened? I pressed the caps lock, but anyway, hello world, and then backslash n, and that's it. Now here a point is being missing. Go to the chat option, guys, and tell me what I'm missing here. And you guys, I'm sure that you guys are smart enough to find out the logical error here, that what is going to happen if I don't do that point. Go to the chat option and tell me. All right, I'm just going to do it by my own. I guess you guys are having no answers, but anyway, I have to do incrementation here inside the body of while loop, because I told you guys this area, these parentheses, whatever you want to write here, this area is literally reserved for the condition only. You cannot do incrementation or decrementation inside these parentheses, or you can't even initialize any value here. So this place is only reserved for condition. Now I'll simply type, I'll just have to run this code and see how it works. I initialize the I value with 1 outside the while loop, and then I simply set the condition here, and then what I did, I made the body for while loop, and then I just simply use cout in order to display that on screen. And then after showing this, I also incremented the value of I, which is initially 1, by 1. I mean, initially the I value is 1, but after incrementation, it will increase each time the loop runs. So I'm just going to compile it. I'm just going to compile it by pressing F9. Now it's compiling, it's done. Let me run it, and you guys can see the result on the screen, which is similar to the previous one, the one that we done with for loop. So the result is same. I've printed hello world 5 times. Now you can change this value, right? If I want the hello world to be printed 20 times, just change this 20. If I want it to be printed 1,000 times, so just change this 20 with 1,000. But now I don't want to make this program to be a heavy one, so let's just print the hello world 20 times to see the actual result. right? I just want to print it 20 times. I don't want this program to be a heavy one. So now let's press F10, right? Just by changing one value, I can change the whole story. You guys can see that. Now I've printed it 20 times. If I substitute it with 1,000, so hello world will be printed 1,000 times. See, just imagine doing it by using only cout. It will be time consuming. It will take hours, even days. So that's why we say that loops are very powerful. It can save your time, right? So this is the result. All right. Well, you can print integer here. What does it mean? It is the return type. Main is a function, and this is a return time. Whenever we call a function, we have to, whenever we define a function, we have to, or whenever you want to call a function, you can say, we have to tell the return value, right? This is the return data type of this function. So if you put int here, that will work, right? That would work. You can also write at the end of your program return 0. That will also work. But if it's working without int, so you should not use it. I mean, it's fine, you can use it, but that is the return type. You guys will learn it in functions chapter. So just don't focus on it. That is the body of the program. That is the structure of a C++ program. But there we were having some, we're having some changes from time to time. That's why but this works with this compiler. You don't have to put integer data type here. So well guys, this is while loop. It's simple, right? There's nothing complicated. The condition first is checked. If the condition is true, while body is being executed. Otherwise, if the condition turns to be false, the while loop will be terminated. So it's simple. Is there any question? Go to the chat option, guys, and ask your question. Don't worry, guys. We'll be having a practice set on all these loops. 3 of these loops in our next lecture. So now we're having the last one remaining, which is called do while loop. You see that this is do while loop. The only difference between while and do loop is that in do while loop, the body is executed first, then the condition is being checked. So that's the only difference between while loop and do while loop, which is the last one. Means the body is executed first, then the condition is checked. You guys see the syntax. First of all, you simply have to write do, then curly braces, then enter whatever you want to enter, whatever you want to type between those curly braces, which is called the body of do while loop, right? A single statement or even more. And then the while loop, then these curly braces are followed by while. And then in parentheses, you have to set the condition again. And then it ends with a semicolon. So this is the syntax of do while loop. Let's work with it and see what is the only difference. As I said earlier, the only difference between while and do while loop is that in do while loop, the body is executed first, then the condition is being checked. So let's see how it works. I want to make the same program, write a program to print hello world 5 times, right? So we're just going to do it with do while loop. So first of all, just type do, and this is the body. So just type here cout, hello world, and then \n. That's it. And now here's the condition part. Just write condition. So I have to set the condition, but I haven't defined, but I have initialized any value. So I have to initialize value. I have to initialize value at the top of the do loop. I mean the outside this loop structure. So int x equals to 1 suppose, and then we have to do the incrementation here in I plus plus, and now I have to set my condition here. I is less than or equal to 5. So let's see. Now let me run it by pressing F9, compile it by pressing F9. I got a mistake. I didn't put the semicolon. So now it's compiling. And I'm done. Let me run it. You guys can again see the same result here on the screen. Hello world, which is being printed 5 times. So now what is the difference between do while loop and while loop? All right, let me tell you. I told you in the first place that in do while loop, in this loop, the body is being executed first, then the condition is being checked. What does it mean? First of all, initialization will be done, right? It will be done only once. Then this statement will be executed. See out, hello world, that will be printed on the screen, right? Then the incrementation will be done, means 1 will be added with the value of I, and it will be again stored in I variable. You guys know that we have discussed increment and decrement operators in our previous lectures, so you guys can watch that. So incrementation will be done. Then the body, I mean, is being completely executed. Now we'll go to now the condition will be checked. So if the condition is true, in this case, in the first iteration, which is absolutely true. So if it is true, the control flow will go to the top. I mean, the control flow will go below the do statement. You can say the control flow will go to the body of do while statement, do while loop. Means when this condition is being checked, and in this case it has to be true, I mean in the first iteration, so the second iteration will take place and this will be printed again, incrementation will be done, and it will continue to be executed until the condition turns to be false. When the condition is false, the loop will not be executed and the loop will be terminated. Now here's the deal. I told you guys that this body is being executed first. What if the condition is false? Right? What if the condition is false? If I say if I is greater than 5, so run this loop, which means the condition is literally false because the I value is not greater than or equal to 5. So let's see what happens. Can you guys tell me what will be the result? What will be the result of this program if I run it? Thank you for your compliment, sir. Excellent teaching. I've got another question from Aisha. Sir, do alphabet. What do you mean by do alphabet? I'm not getting you. So let's run this program. Well, this was the old one, I guess. Let me recompile it by pressing F9. You guys can you guys tell me? Can you guys tell me that why this is happening? Why hello world was being printed only once? It will run. I told you guys, even if the condition is false in do while loop, the loop will be executed. The body of do while loop will be executed, but only once. Because I told you guys in the first place, first of all, this body is being executed. That's the only difference between do while loop and while loop. In the while loop, the condition is first checked, and then the remaining process is being done according to the condition. If the condition is true, body will be executed. Otherwise, if the condition is false, loop will be terminated. But in here, first of all, body is being executed. Let's dry run it. This will be executed. I mean, hello world will be printed only once, then the condition will be checked, and the compiler will realize that the condition is false, means I is not greater than 5, I is equal to 1. So the condition is false, the loop will be terminated. It's simple. It means even if the condition is false in do while loop, the body will be executed only once. But if you do the same thing with while loop will never run. It will not even run only once, because in the first try, if the condition turns to be false, so definitely the loop will be terminated. Why it will be printing, why it will be working? It will never be running. It will never be executed. I'm talking about while loop. So this is the difference between do while loop and while loop. That's it, guys. Is there any question? Yeah, exactly. Loop loop will only run once. I think you gave me answer of the previous question, but anyway, that's it, guys. That's all for now. That's it. Let me show you guys this again. This is the for loop. This is the while loop, and this is the do while loop. The only difference lies um, in do while loop and while loop is that in do while loop the body is being executed first, then the condition is checked, which means even if the condition is false, if the condition given in the first place is false, the body will be executed only once, and if the condition is false, then loop will be terminated. That's it, guys. Okay, thank you, man.